Okay, and here is the part that I was talking about at the very beginning when I said that people want to do blasts, and that is broadcast. They're known as broadcast in Genius, right? And in the Genius system, I do say this: you want to be careful with the broadcast section because Facebook is very aware that there are bots who will send a lot of messages. There are a lot of spammers who will send a lot of messages. We do not want to be a spammer, right? So use this liberally, and I say that seriously. You the first time it happened, you'll notice you won't be able to send messages for the day, and hopefully they'll fix you up for. It's usually a 24-hour, but if you don't use Facebook often to send a whole bunch of messages, you don't want to just jump in and send a whole bunch now. And you have to excuse me, my allergies are acting up a little bit here. Just close that. Something is going on in the background here. But yeah, so what are broadcasts? So we go in here and you have this thing called broadcast. What a broadcast is basically like a blast. And you can blast anyone who is labeled or labeled and tagged. We'll go into the system. We'll take a look at what it looks like. But it's basically like a blast. If you were using a text messaging software, you send a whole bunch of text messages to the people. What I tend to do is I will reach out to agents and wholesalers to try and source deals, right? And then I have one that says still wholesaling, because a lot of wholesalers, they come in and they quit after a while. So I will sometimes send these out to try and check. So basically what these are is you can create a broadcast in here, and as you can see, you can choose a label or a tag. So for me, I'm mostly using labels, and I would say, okay, label, what label I would use? The wholesaler label, say. You can also exclude that label and just go with everybody else. I don't care about the gender. You do want to space these things out, 3 minutes at the very least, just so you don't. It's just to try and prevent the algorithm on Facebook from thinking you're a robot. So spacing them out again. So what this basically does is it'll send one message every 3 minutes, basically. So you'll send it to one person on your list, then in 3 minutes it'll send it to another person, right? And so you have that, and then you select a message group. Okay, so what are message groups? Okay, these are what we're building our messaging. So if you're used to text message systems, you know that basically what that is you're creating a message within the text messaging software. And so I had something for Halloween at some point, asking people if they're still wholesaling, following up and seeing if they have deals. Same thing for agents. So that is basically what my message would go. And then you can also automate actions after sent. So if you had like a certain tag that you wanted to go after you reached out to a person one time, you could say, okay, so this is the first touch, second touch, third touch. You could create a tag for that, right? So you know how frequently you've communicated with that person. So I tend not to use that because I find I'm sending messages to wholesalers or realtors every 7 days or so. If I want to reach out to some people, if I want to, fill my pipeline, I'm just gonna go out and send a small blast. So it even says here, caution: sending too many messages too fast can possibly trigger account restrictions. Use this feature at your own risk and with full understanding. Patience is key, so consider using slower send intervals and be sure to have plenty of variations in your message segments and groups. Okay, so what are they talking about when they're talking about message segments and groups? Message segments are how you basically create these messages, right? So what it is you have variations. You have multiple of the same thing. It's a segment. It's basically like spin tax, if you're aware of what spin tax is in sending messages. It's basically sending the same thing. You have synonyms or similar phrases. So here I basically am asking the same question. Are you still wholesaling? Are you still doing deals? Still doing deals? Are you still wholesaling? Are you still assigning contracts? Multiple variations of the same question, right? So when you create one of these things, you come in here and you're saying, we can say this is a message to check and see if people are still doing deals in a certain area. Let's see. Still in North Carolina. All right, so we create multiple message blocks. So I'd say, and you can use the first name. So you can say, okay, first name, are you still doing deals in NC? Right, so I'd add that block. That's one. Create another message. We say, what's up? First name, question mark. Still in the NC market? Question mark, and then we'd add that one. Whoops, add block. So you would just create multiple of the same thing. So this is basically a still in NC segment. So we could do save message segments, and then you'll see it's still in NC. So that gives us those two messages are in there. And we can add more. If you want to create another, you can just add some more here. But these are basically blocks, right? They call them blocks because these are the building blocks that build up your messaging when you're actually sending out a broadcast. So for example, we have an intro here. So my intro is hi first name, or what's good first name, or just their first name. What's going on? So if the person's name is Joe, right, it'd be like, hi Joe, what's good Joe? Or Joe, what's going on Joe? How are things going Joe? How are things Joe? How's business Joe? So I have various intros that start like that, and the reason is because, again, Facebook will start they pay attention to how frequently you're sending the same message. You don't want to send the same message, so this randomizes the messages when they go out. So these are the segments you create. You have to think this through, because these are pieces of a longer message, right? How are you going to piece together these segments? So we have an intro piece that is the same for pretty much all of my messaging. I'm always going to say hey or hi. What's the name? I usually don't say hey. That's not me. I don't use the word hey. But if you're doing it, you might say hey, or you might say hi, or you might say something of that nature, something to that effect, right? So whatever your greeting is, you would make an intro greeting, and usually that's going to be in every message. Like if you haven't spoken to somebody in a while, you're going to want to greet them with their name or something like that. And then you'll put together some other things. So you can add, okay, are you still wholesaling in NC, right? And then it's like, this is like, my buyer acts as if he doesn't have enough deals. So this is me saying, okay, I have buyers. You know, if I have buyers, I'm going to put out that message. Wholesaler asks. So have any properties that I might be able to take a look at in your inventory. So it doesn't go with the still NC message, but you can create as many of these as you want, and you mix and match and put them together like a puzzle, and those go together in what's called message groups, right? So you have segments and then groups. Groups are where you group all of these segments together in one message. So here we have my still wholesaling, and if you take a look at it, it puts two groups together, the intro group and the still wholesaling group. So it's only two phrases basically that we stuck together, and that's how that looks. So what does that look like? when you send that message out, it's going to be basically a random version of are you still wholesaling? So that's basically the difference between message segments and message groups. So you're basically creating a text message that goes out whenever you're scheduling it. So for me, I schedule these things to go out every so often, where I'm just asking if people have properties. That's the main reason why I do a broadcast. And again, when you send one of these out, what you can do is you can say, okay, I want this. When you create one of these things, you can say, I want it to stop at 30, right? So label, we're going to select wholesaler. We're going to say select an interval every 5 minutes. So we'll send it, select message group, follow up, schedule later. We'll schedule it in 2 minutes. Limit number of people for broadcast. So I don't like to send out too many of these, so I might send out 25 of them. Again, what I tend to do instead of doing this is I grab people's information, I put it into my CRM, where my CRM is contacting people to their phone. I'm not going to get any penalizations for blasting out 100 messages in a day, whereas on Facebook, if you try that, they may throttle you, or they may suspend you for the day. So it's just better to use this liberally than to go all out and try to send out hundreds of messages from here, in my experiences. So that is basically the broadcast function. It can be very beneficial. It is very helpful, but you do not want to abuse it. I use it here and there, as you can see, but I would not use it too frequently, or not too much in one. Certainly not too much in one day. Just limit it to a few people. Send out some messages while you're doing something else. It's a time saver, and it'll get your pipeline filled up with actual properties when people start sending you properties. Yeah, I got this property, and they send it to you. So it does work well in that way.